Put down the pitchforks. Cancel the hitmen. Call off the internet police. I finally did it. After years of people suffocating me in the comment section, holding my family hostage, and telling me, bro, I swear it gets peak at episode 300, I finally started One Piece. Okay, it's not like I've watched the whole show yet, but I'm exactly at 200 episodes deep. I have survived the East Blue. I have survived the desert. I have survived the sky. And let me put this level of brain rot into the perspective of you modern shonen kid. 200 episodes is essentially 20% of the show. I could have watched the entirety of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood 3 times over. All of Attack on Titan is under 100 episodes. I have watched 3 normal lifetimes of anime. I could have learned coding language, and Luffy hasn't even unlocked his router password yet. But today, completely spoiler free, we are putting the first 200 episodes on trial. Is it actually peak fiction? Or do you guys just have Stockholm Syndrome? Let's start with the most refreshing thing about the show. Monkey D. Luffy is not a fraud. In the modern anime meta, we are so incredibly used to the zero to hero trope. You know the drill. The MC is a pathetic crybaby in every show with 0 stats, who get bullied until a magical ghost gives him a quirk or a demon fox or something like that. Not Luffy. From episode 1, this rubber menace wakes up and chooses violence. He is already a powerhouse. But more importantly, he is not a superhero. He actively rejects the hero title. He makes it very clear, a hero is someone who shares their meat. Luffy wants to eat all the meat himself. He doesn't go to islands to save the geopolitical landscapes. He goes there because his navigator told him to, someone offered him food, or someone looked at his friends funny. The progression feels on because you aren't waiting for him to stop crying. You are just waiting for him to find opponents who can actually survive a 5-minute fade. Now let's address the elephant in the room. The number one reason your friends refuse to watch One Piece? The goofy allegations. We live in an era of hyper-edgy trauma porn anime where teenagers are sliced in half in 4K resolution. So when you tell a modern shonen anime fan to watch a 1919 show where the main character stretches like a Looney Tunes character and fights a literal clown who shoots his own feet at you, they check out. But here is the 200 IQ reality check. The goofiness is a weapon. The author Eiichiro Oda is a genius, as you know, and he actively filters out the audience who only cares about edgy aesthetics. By making the power ridiculous, he is forcing the combat to be creative. In most shows, the guy who shoots the biggest laser wins. In One Piece, you have guys who ate the wax fruit or the spring fruit, and they have to use physics and environmental IQ to not get packed up. It looks goofy, but the stakes are incredibly lethal. And speaking of fighting, we need to talk about the power scaling, because One Piece actually respects your intelligence. Yeah, I'm about to take a stray shot at Hunter x Hunter. I'm sorry, but I hate the H&H power scaling system. 1 second, a character is an untouchable god, and the next scene, they get nerfed into the ground just so the plot can happen. It's an absolute mess. In One Piece, if a character is demon, they stay a demon. The ceiling of the world is established insanely early. When Dracul Mihawk shows up in the East Blue with the butter knife and absolutely humbles Zoro, it gets a permanent standard for the rest of the 1000 episodes. The enemies don't randomly scale down to match the protagonist. The Straw Hats have to scale up or they die. It is mathematically satisfying. But action means nothing without stakes, and this is where the One Piece traps actually snaps shut. Up until episode 30, you think you are watching a fun, goofy pirate show, and then you hit Arlong Park. While Naruto characters are sad because they sit on a swing, Nami's backstory is rooted in literal systematic operation, extortion, and generational trauma. The villains aren't just bad guys. They are organized crime syndicates running a monopoly on human misery. When Nami finally breaks down, crying in the dirt, and asks Luffy for help, and he just puts his hat on her head and walks towards the villain's base, That is the exact psychological moment the show owns your soul. That is the moment you realize you are watching a peak fiction. But of course, we can't talk about the Straw Hats without addressing the most toxic, brain rotting civil war in anime history. The Zoro versus Sanji agenda. I'm only 200 episodes in, but I need the Sanji simps to explain something to me right now. Sanji is a line cook. He is a simp. He was raised in a floating olive garden. Zoro is a Bushido swordsman who spends 90% of his screen time lifting buildings, fighting baboons, and actively training to be a weapon of mass destruction. Obviously, Zoro is stronger. Why is this a debate? I know Sanji has the flaming leg kicks, but from a purely narrative standpoint, the guy whose only job is fighting is going to beat the guy who makes a mean risotto. Argue with the wall. Hit the comments right now and tell me why I'm wrong. I dare you. I will fight all of you for Zoro. Now, for the final verdict on the first 200 episodes, the absolute peak so far, the Alabasta arc. This is where Oda flexes his world building. You get political corruption, rebellion, and Crocodile. Crocodile is the first villain to actually radiate billionaire CEO final boss aura. The stakes felt impossible. The pacing, flawless. Okay, not so flawless, but it was nice. But then we hit the Davy Back Fight. And what is this garbage? I almost dropped the entire franchise. It is canonical filler. It is narrative terrorism. If you are starting One Piece, do yourself a massive favor. Skip the Davy Back Fight. Just ask AI or ChatGPT for some summary and move on. Move on to the next arc. And if you are skipping fillers, let me tell you, don't skip the G8 arc. That's a filler, but that is absolute peak cinema. And anyone who skips it belongs in a maximum security prison. So what's the verdict on the first 200 episodes? Are the pacing complaints valid? A little bit. Is the art style weird at first? Yeah, but the world feels infinitely massive. The crew feels like an actual family. And despite the sheer terrifying volume of episodes standing in my way, I get it. I finally get the brain rot. I understand the cult. I'm logged in. I'm ready for the peak. See you at episode 400. Oikora out.